Hello dear viewers, welcome back again in Glittering Biology with your Bioguru Alok. Hope you all are fit and fine at your home and taking precautions to save yourself and others from pandemic COVID-19, and also expecting that you all are preparing your notes and learning all the content what we are trying to provide you through the audio visual mod. So, in the series of lectures, this lecture is again related with the chapter that is the molecular basis of inheritance. And in previous lecture, I told you that we were trying to find out the genetic material of all living organisms. Here we can say out of two genetic materials, that is RNA and DNA, which is the better one for all living organisms. So, different scientists has given their views and experimented on different conditions and proved that DNA is a better option for all living organisms as a genetic material, except the few viruses. Why? Because it is more stable in the comparison of RNA. Now the next topic which we need to study about, that one is the structure of DNA and RNA, and later on we will just talk about the DNA packaging. We will just continue the lecture and start with the DNA. So in the next slide, which is showing the DNA as a polynucleotide, in the previous lecture I already told you about this content, that what the DNA is made up of, that is made up of the nitrogenous bases, a deoxyribose pentose sugar and a phosphate group. And in the nitrogenous bases there are the two categories, that is the purine and pyrimidine, which are further divided into two subgroups, that is adenine guanine under the purine, and cytosine and thymine under the pyrimidine. So here the question comes that where we are just getting this DNA, as I am confident enough that you all are knowing about it, that DNA is a genetic material, so it must be present inside the cell, every cell, where this DNA is present in the maximum amount along with the chromosomes. So what is the chromosome? First we need to talk about that one. This is the condensed thread like structure which are found inside the nucleus, especially in the eukaryotic cell, while in the prokaryotic cell it is the circular single strand DNA is present along with them. Here we need to know about the chromosomes, that what it is. Chromosome is containing two main basic contents, that one is the DNA and another is the histone protein. Again, this histone protein is not found along with the prokaryotic cell. This is the protein which one is found in the eukaryotic cell, and there are the 5 histone proteins present along with the DNA, that is H1, H2A, H2B, H3 and H4. So these are the specific histones which are present along with the DNA and making the complete structure of chromosomes. Later we will just discuss about the prokaryotic or the bacterial chromosome, what is the difference between the eukaryotic uh, chromosome, and here we will start about the structure of DNA. What the structure of DNA consists here, that DNA, earlier I told you that it is what? It is the polymer of nucleotides. The nucleotides, what it is? Nucleotide in DNA are known as the deoxyribonucleotides. Deoxyribonucleotides. I am confident enough you can just recall that this structure what is on your slide, that is the nitrogenous base, deoxyribose pentose sugar and phosphate group, is bringing something in your mind related with this term. These contains a deoxyribose sugar whose formula is C5H10 O4, a phosphate, that is H, that one is just represented by the S3PO4, and the nitrogenous base, that nitrogenous base are of four types, that is categorized under the purine and pyrimidine. That in the DNA we will just consider this all, means here adenine and guanine, they are just considered along with the purine bases, while cytosine and thymine are the pyrimidine bases. And whenever we will just talk about the pentose sugar, then earlier I told you that pentose sugar, which one is present along with DNA, that is C5H10O4. In nucleotides, the sugar is always a pentose here, and it consists 5 carbon atoms. In the normal conditions, there are the two types of pentose sugars are found. One is the ribose and another is the deoxyribose. So while we will just study about the RNA, then the pentose sugar will be the different type, and during the study of DNA, the pentose sugar is deoxyribose type. On the basis of the attachment of deoxyribose with the nitrogenous bases, they are just making a special type of nucleotide that is known as the deoxyribonucleotides. Here, what happens over there? The nucleotide which contain deoxyribose sugar, that one is called as the deoxyribose nucleotides. In the deoxyribose sugar, what happens over there, means what is the special, or what is the difference between the ribose and deoxyribose? Here D means absent, one oxygen atom is missing, because in deoxyribose one hydroxyl group at position 2 is replaced by hydrogen. Therefore, the empirical formula is having one oxygen less than the ribose sugar. So you can just again keep in your mind that ribose sugar have the empirical formula C5H10O5, while deoxyribose having the empirical formula C5H10O4. Then about the that nitrogenous bases, what it is, they are heterocyclic compounds, and nucleotides are of many types, but any one of them is present in one nucleotide. Broadly, there are two types of nitrogenous bases, which one is just considered as that purine or pyrimidine, and in the purines what we have, that adenine and guanine. So in your book you can just see the structure, general structure of purine and pyrimidines also over there. Actually pyrimidines have one more category, that is known as the uracil. But here we are, while we are just studying about the DNA, so we are not discussing about the uracil. Whenever we will start about the RNA, then we will just include that content. In pyrimidines, it is the first carbon atom which form the bond with the sugar during nucleotide formation. Keep this thing in your mind that pyrimidines are, in pyrimidines the first carbon atom is making a bond with the sugar during nucleotide formation. The basic ring skeleton of the purine and pyrimidine are not asked in the board examination, but just prepare it for your knowledge only, and have a clear cut idea what is the difference, basic difference between purine and pyrimidine. How the deoxyribonucleotides are formed, that one is a special process. Here what it is, that nitrogenous basis combines with its n atoms, that is ninth in purine and first in the pyrimidines, to the first carbon of the deoxyribose sugar. A water molecule later on eliminated, and the bond so formed is called as the beta N glycosidic bond. beta and glycosidic bond. One of the hydroxyl group of phosphoric acid combines with the OH group of fifth carbon atom of the sugar, and water molecule is again liberated, and the bond so formed is called as the phosphodiester bond. On the basis of these nitrogenous bases, further classified into the four categories, that DNA nucleotides: deoxyadenosine monophosphate, deoxyguanosine monophosphate, deoxycytidine monophosphate, deoxythyridine monophosphate. That is about the deoxyribonucleotides. And how the polynucleotide chain is formed over there, that is, the deoxyribonucleotides so formed now undergo polymerization process. Polymerization means making a complex structure from the simpler bodies. This process consists various types of deoxyribonucleotides get jointed and with the help of phosphodiester bonds to form a linear chain. There are two types of polynucleotide chain, and that are just depend on the special conditions which are just formed with the phosphodiester bond. Here, phosphodiester bond, what it is? Earlier I told you that it is formed between the phosphate group present at the fifth carbon atom of the sugar of the nucleotide and the third carbon atom of the sugar of another nucleotide. The bond formation leads to the formation of long chain called as the polynucleotide chain. Then we need to study about a special model on the basis of this polynucleotide chain. So for this purpose, Watson and Crick, he is the scientist who has presented the double helix model of DNA, and for this purpose he got the Nobel Prize in same field. Earlier it was told that DNA is a linear but twisted polymer of deoxyribonucleotides. They jointed together by 5' to 3' phosphodiester bonds to form polynucleotide chain. DNA has two such type of chains. That's why there is the structure is make formed, that is called as the double helical molecule. That Watson and Crick along with the Willikins also has provided this model in 1953 and told about the DNA that it consists of two polynucleotide chain which run in opposite direction. Means one chain will be formed from 5 dash to 3 dash direction, while other will be formed from 3 dash to 5 direction. Therefore the chains are anti-parallel. This is important. Both chains are held together by weak hydrogen bonds which are formed between the complementary nitrogenous bases, and always there will be a simple pairing is observed in between the A and T and C and G in between these two chains. A and T means adenine and thymine are just bonded with double hydrogen bonds, and C and G are bonded with the triple hydrogen bonds. Due to this complementary association of nitrogenous base, the amount of adenine is always equal to that of thymine, and amount of guanine is always equal to the cytosine. This concept is also known as the Chargaff rule. Here, the bonds between the two chains, means the hydrogen bonds between the two chains, makes them twisted similar to the spiral staircase, and providing them a double helix structure. Double helical structure is responsible for the replication and transcription process. The sequence of nucleotides in DNA is highly specific and which contains genetic information. This is the structure of nucleosome, which you have just gone, which you have studied at the 10th standard also, that 8 histones, a core of 8 histones along with the DNA is collectively called as the nucleosome. Now, after this, we would like to discuss about the different types of DNA, and that different types of DNA are, there are the 4 types of DNA which are specific and must be in your knowledge. That is, first of all, the bDNA. It is the most common type of DNA. The Watson and Crick model was based on this bDNA. It has 10 base pairs per turn and the diameter is near about 20 nm. It is rightly handed coiled structure. Then the second one is the aDNA. That aDNA is again right handed. Number of base pairs per turn are increased, that one is 11 now, and distance will be in between the two base pairs is 2.56 angstrom. And zDNA, that is the specific one, it is the left handed DNA, which one is containing 12 number of base pair per turn. It is having the distance between the two base pairs is 3.75 angstrom, and along with that cDNA, again it is right handed, number of base pairs per turn, that one is 9.33, while the dDNA is the again right handed DNA with the number of base pairs of 8, and the distance between two base pairs is 3.03 angstrom. What is the difference between the prokaryotic DNA and eukaryotic DNA? That I told, that one is also important for you. So what it is in prokaryotic DNA, that is the low DNA, means you can say that amount of DNA is very less, while in the eukaryotic the DNA amount is quite high. You can say that chromatin value is low or high. DNA is not present along with inside the nucleus or any organelle, while in eukaryotes that DNA is present inside the nucleus and along with few organelles also. Here in the prokaryotic DNA there is no histone protein present, while in eukaryotic DNA there will be the histone protein firmly associated with the that DNA. Single molecule is present along with the prokaryotes, and several molecules of DNA are present in the eukaryotes. Here in the prokaryotic DNA contains only coding at the exon regions, means they all parts of DNA has the coding, means they have the exon regions. But in the eukaryotic cell, DNA contains both coding and non-coding regions. So this is about the difference between the prokaryote and eukaryote. Now there is a one term that is called as the denaturation and renaturation of DNA, which must be in your mind. What it is? When DNA is heated and placed in a strong alkaline pH, its two strands get separated. This separation or melting is called as the denaturation, and the temperature at which the two strands separate, that is depends upon the ATCG ratio, means adenine and thymine while cytosine and guanine ratio. Its opposite is what? That whenever the DNA is cooled slowly after its denaturation, these two strands will base pairs in register and the original configuration is restored. This process is called as the renaturation and or annealing. That two terms are important for you. What is about the semi conservative model? Semi conservative model, replication of DNA, you can just see that replication is representing what? The formation of new strands along with the that parental nucleotides. Here you can see replication. This diagram you have already seen at the 10th class book also. Replication, what it is representing, from the one in it is just get separated, and from the that side where the denaturation is taking place, that one is having capacity to form the new strand along with that parental strand. That is the process which we will just consider in the that semi conservative replication of, sorry, that replication of DNA. Replication of DNA, if we will just consider this one, it is the main process which occurs during the S phase of cell cycle. Cell division whenever taking place, I think you have studied about the that S phase. Semi conservative nature of replication, whenever we will talk about this one, what it is just based on the Watson and Crick models. He told that the DNA replication is semi conservative. During its replication, half of the parental DNA remains conserved and only one half is newly synthesized, and the pattern of synthesis is just shown in this slide. That idea was given due to the fact that base pairing is highly specific and a new strand cannot be synthesized. It must be derived from the template. Means it requires the information from the parental DNA. On the basis of that information, the new strand of DNA is going to be formed. During replication, the two strands are just having a special pattern of formation, and it requires a enzyme that is known as the helicase. Helicase enzyme is helpful for the separation of DNA. That one is just representing the process by which the separation is taking place in this slide, and formation of new strand with a specific template. The semi-conservative nature of DNA replication was proposed by this Watson and Crick and was first experimentally proved by the Michelson and Stull. What was the experiment he has done? Now have a look of this one. Matthew Michelson and the Franklin Stull in 1958 made use of isotopes, that is N15 isotopes, for the determining the semi-conservative nature of DNA replication. Here you can just see that is the showing a specific color. The DNA containing N15 is heavier than normal DNA with N14 and therefore easily distinguishable. N15 is not radioactive. Keep this thing in your mind. It can be distinguished from N14 on the basis of different densities. And this experiment has been performed with the Escherichia coli. That earlier I told you it is an important bacteria for your for the biotechnology and genetics purpose. This bacteria was grown in culture medium containing N15H4Cl for many generations. Now, N15 labeled E. coli was extracted from the medium and was shifted to another medium which contained N14. The DNA was then isolated from E. coli and its density was analyzed by ultracentrifugation on a cesium chloride gradient. It was found that after first division cycle, one strand of DNA was labeled with N14 and other with the N15. And the second division cycle, one molecule was containing both N14 strands but other was still hybrid. These findings clearly reveal that DNA replication is semi-conservative. Here you can just see on the basis of this pattern hybrid what it is, N14 and N15. N15 is represented by the that red color and N14 is normal blue color. In the first condition where it was the N15 was applied along with the E. coli, so all the hybrids were formed over there. But in the second condition what it was, it is just observed that few of the bacteria in the second condition, a few of bacteria or half of the bacteria are just having the N14 and the other bacteria are having the hybrid condition of that one. This is just representing the semi-conservative replication. For the replication of DNA, you can just follow this one also. That is what that it is containing all the important content, including the special enzymes involved in this one. Have a look of this. In this one, what we need to talk about that first of all, uncoiling and separation of two strands. How it takes place? I told you earlier that is the enzyme which one is involved in the separation, that is the helicase, most important enzyme which cuts the hydrogen bonds between the complementary nitrogenous bases of nucleotides of two strands. But it requires the body energy. And then after the DNA is, while we are just talking about the DNA, then it is the coiled structures and what it is, the tension of means this coiling can be removed by a special enzyme, that one is called as the topoisomerase, which is able to cut the DNA to release their coil tensions and can receive the cut parts DNA again. Topoisomerase is the very important enzyme which one is required to cut the DNA molecules. Then DNA gyrase is also a topoisomerase enzyme type of enzyme which also helps in the removal of coiling tensions in bacterial replication. Beside these enzymes, there are double helix destabilizing proteins which help in the separation of two strands, and these proteins are important to maintain the stability of the replication fork. This replication fork, what you are just observing here in this slide, each strand act as a template, means master copy for the synthesis of new strand. As soon as the strand gets separated, they start attracting the complementary daughter strands. Thus separation is immediately followed by the replication. That is it for today's lecture. In the next lecture we will start with the RNA. Thank you everyone.